Hello, and welcome to the Josh Brown Podcast. With over 40 years of combined financial planning experience serving high net worth clients, we will discuss our favorite topics, concepts, and stories.
Today we have with us Matt Harrison and Renate Sutherland from Movement Mortgage. And they are our guests today, and we're going to be talking about reverse mortgage. Why financial advisors are taking a second look at reverse mortgage as a retirement planning strategy. And so I had the pleasure of talking with Matt and Renata last week, and they share some insightful information with me and my team about reverse mortgage. And so I believe this would be a great podcast episode that will benefit many people. And so I will let them introduce themselves, and then we will have a conversation around reverse mortgage.
Sounds great. I guess I will go ahead and start. So my name is Matt Harrison. I am a certified reverse mortgage professional with Movement Mortgage. And I am super excited to be able to help educate everybody on a program that, needs to be understood a little bit better or a lot better. And, we've kind of done a poor job in the industry to really bring to light a way that, financial planners can use this as a tool to help their clients to use in a coordinated strategy the home equity of a home. And in retirement years, cash flow becomes very important. And so different ways to pull money out of a home, you can sell it, you can do a traditional cash out refinance or a HELOC. But you can also use a reverse mortgage as one of those pathways, and there's a lot of benefits to it, which I'm excited to get into today.
Good. So I will let Renata introduce herself, and then we'll start the discussion.
Thanks, guys. My name is Renate Sutherland. I am also with Movement Mortgage. I have been a loan officer for, I don't even know, a dozen or so years now. So I do your typical mortgages. So we call them like your regular forward mortgage that most people think about. So any type of mortgage, your 30-year, 15-year terms. Conventional non-type conventional loans, so your non-QM and things like that. But occasionally, we get folks who need something different. And so when I come across those folks, and we'll kind of later on go into some examples for you all. But we have folks that come in and, sometimes there are older folks that, are on those fixed incomes, but they still need to tap into their home's assets, whether that's a home that they already own or maybe one that we're looking to purchase. And that's when we're able to give Matt and his team a call and really still able to help those folks. And it's a tremendous asset that we have and having Matt and his team. So it's kind of what we're going to go over for you guys today.
Great. Well, welcome to the Josh Brown Podcast, guys. I'm so excited to have you guys and have this discussion around reverse mortgage. So, what is the dirty little secret that everybody's so scared of reverse mortgage? It sounds like a curse word when you say it. And I'm new to the financial planning industry. And so, when I was coming up and learning through CFP exam, it just seems like everybody was just like putting an X on it, like, no, 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 and I always believe that any strategy works well for the best person. And so, from the conversation that we had with you last week, Matt, we've learned so much about the tax planning strategies that surround this, right? The options that clients have now that they could take a look at for some deeper financial planning around taxation and the efficiency of it. So I just want you to dive deep into that and tell me, what has changed over the last couple of decades, why people now can take a different look on reverse mortgage.
Yeah, that's a great question. Reverse mortgages, it's a program that the moment you say it, and I agree with you, there's a lot of antagonism that goes with it. People are like, oh, I know what that program is. The sad truth is that most people don't know what it is. And that fear, that false evidence appearing real, right? That's the acronym FEAR, is stemmed from people that have had reverse mortgages in the past that were not FHA insured reverse mortgages. These are mortgages that were done under a cloak of a different type of mortgage. They got into it. Maybe it was an equity sharing agreement. Maybe they lost their homes. There's a lot of bad that happened under the guise of reverse over the years. But the FHA program that insures reverse mortgages today is called the home equity conversion mortgage. It is specifically designed to not only help seniors that are in dire straits, right? We've run out of money. We have no more money in AUM. We have no more money in, assets under management. We have no more money in any of our accounts, but we have a house and that house has equity in it.
Mm-hmm.
So now we go and tap into that, right? That's kind of the last resort type of mentality that is used for most people, even today in the reverse space. However, those that really understand reverse see it as a financial planning tool, best used as early as you can possibly do it, which is age 62. Okay, so if you're 62 years old and you're looking at saying, all right, am I a good candidate for this? There's really three different types of people that will work well for a reverse mortgage or situations. The first is if someone has a paid off house. If you're 62 and older and have a paid off house, that is awesome, by the way. Great accomplishment. You work hard all of your life to buy this home. You've made these payments with sweat and tears over the years, and now you own this house free and clear and don't have to make a payment. The sad part is that you probably have hundreds of thousands of dollars, and in some cases, millions of dollars stacked into this illiquid asset. And home equity is great. It's great to say that you have it, but you can't go to the store and buy groceries with it. You can't go on a trip to Paris. You can't, do some of the things for kids and grandkids to help them, with that money that is sitting there in the home, unless you make it liquid. And there's ways to make it liquid. You can sell your home, obviously. You can, take out a traditional cash out refinance or a HELOC, as we just discussed before. But both of those carry their own issues. If you sell a house, you got to buy something different. If you use a traditional mortgage, you have to qualify for it, and you have the monthly payments that come associated with it. So what a reverse mortgage does for that very first client, Michelle, is that it allows for them to tap into a position of home equity in a line of credit. Now, the line of credit with the reverse is very unique. It has a growth rate, and it does not become a part of the loan balance unless it's drawn. So if you think about it, you're starting something at 62, which is going to grow and build for you over the years. And you can use it if and when you ever need it with a lot of different strategic plays in your retirement, which I'm sure we're going to get into today. So that's going to be your first client that really does well with the reverse is if they have a paid off house, they like it, they really don't want to move. Now they can move. There's no, downside to that, but hey, we're going to be in this home for at least the next couple of years.
Hey Matt, I hear that. I'm excited about that. And the next thing that I hear is that you're making an illiquid asset liquid with this strategy. And so now I could use that equity that just stuck in the house and take it out and make it a liquid asset to meet my goals and my needs. And so talk to me more about that. And then beyond that, it's just exciting to hear about the people who pay their house off. But we do know there are some people out there that they've heard many, many years that, oh, don't pay off your mortgage. It's not the best thing to do. So they may not have paid off their mortgage. And they may be like, well, he talked about the fact that it's great for somebody with a paid off mortgage, but I don't have a paid off mortgage. What about me? So talk to us about those folks.
Yeah, great. And that's actually the second client that we really work well with is if you have a home and you've been making payments and it might not be paid off, it's actually better that you don't pay it off for a few different reasons. But I want you to think about it like this, Michelle. When you're making a mortgage payment, and let's say it's $2,000 a month, and I'm going to say that you have 10 years left on your mortgage. Okay. Now, first and foremost, there is nothing wrong with making a payment on a mortgage, just like there's nothing wrong with having a paid off house. But we really truly believe that there is a more efficient way to do it. And so the question would then become, all right, you're paying $2,000 a month for the next 10 years. That's $24,000 a year. And over 10 years, that's $240,000 in payments going to an illiquid asset with 0% growth. So I want you to think about this for a minute. If you didn't have to make that payment anymore, all right, you could take that $2,000 and you could put it anywhere else you decided to put it. You could leave it in your checking and savings. You could invest it somewhere where it's growing for you and building. You can use it to just better your cash flow in retirement, or maybe you don't need to take as much money out of your retirement account, which will only extend the longevity of the retirement over time. There's so many things you can do with $2,000 a month. What a reverse mortgage allows for you to do is that payment now becomes optional. You can make the payment if you want, when you want, for however much you want, but you don't have to. So that's going to be the very first thing that people need to start to wrap their heads around is if I'm making this payment, but do I have to? Could it go somewhere else? That could be more efficient for me and my family and my heirs. Okay, the second piece is, well, what happens if I make a payment on a reverse? No one ever talks about this. But making a payment on a reverse can be very advantageous because it's going to do a couple of things. Now, I'm going to quantify this by saying first, every statement you ever get in the mail with your reverse mortgage says this is not a bill. So payments are optional as far as amount and frequency. But if you decide to make a payment, three things happen. First, your loan balance will decrease by what you paid. Second, dollar for dollar, that same payment is going to go into a line of credit that is liquid and growing at the same interest rate as your loan balance. So think about that for just a minute. You make a payment, lowers down your loan balance, dollar for dollar goes into a line of credit. It's liquid, it's available. You can pull that money right back out, and it's growing while it's there. Okay, which is awesome. But the third benefit is you paid some interest. And anytime you pay interest on a mortgage balance, you get a wonderful 1098 tax form, right? Which is going to be important for some around tax time, especially if you're itemizing. And there's another little secret to that as well that I'm sure you're excited for me to go over, Michelle.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm excited for you to go over that piece. So I'm just going to let you dive into what is the benefit of just being able to have the option of paying on the reverse mortgage or not paying on the reverse mortgage. And if I do, can I coordinate that with other big distributions that I may need to take, charitable giving, or just say, I just want to go somewhere and pull from my portfolio to go make a big trip around Europe or something of that nature and have fun. Tell me, how would that be advantageous for me to like pay into that? And then what is the tax benefit of that? Or how can I even coordinate that with Roth conversions? Talk to me from that standpoint.
Yeah, that's a great question. So in a traditional mortgage, which we're all very familiar with, we make monthly payments every single month. And at the end of the year, we've paid a certain amount of mortgage interest on that amount, right? And so you're going to get a 1098 tax form that says this is how much interest you paid. And if you're able to itemize your taxes, then that becomes something that you can throw in as far as your itemization, right? However, the standard deduction is pretty good right now. So for a lot of people that are making mortgage payments, especially those that are far into their amortization schedule, they only have 10 years left. They're paying a lot more principal than they are interest anyway. And so when they make those payments, the total amount in that 1098 mortgage interest tax form that you get at the end of the year is pretty small. Okay. Um, so
I'll
go
pause you
ahead.
right there. So just in case nobody caught this, what Matt is actually saying is if you bought a home from Renata and you had mortgage on it, in the early stages of making those mortgage payments, you're actually paying back more in interest than on your principal. And so, what the government has done, and we're not tax experts, so let's just throw that out there right now. We're not tax experts, but in the beginning stages, you're getting those tax mortgage deductions that you're able to get deductions on early on. And the older the loan get, is the less you're paying on the interest. And so that if you're itemizing, the ability to take that deduction is no longer there. So I'll let Matt finish up now, just in case you guys missed that piece.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for clarifying that, Michelle. So, the later you are at the very beginning of any mortgage, you pay a whole bunch of interest and a little teeny bit of principal, right? And that slowly builds through time as far as the amount of principal that you pay. So the strategy that we talk about here, and I'll echo that, we are not tax professionals. We're not giving you tax advice today. But this is going to be something to start to think about as you're looking at ways to take money that are in taxable type accounts and get them moved over. If you have a qualified retirement account, qualified account means the money went in pre-tax, right? Which is a benefit. That's what you want to do with your 401ks and IRAs. But when you take that money out, that's when the government says, okay, it's time to pay taxes. So they say, hey, we're fine. You don't have to pay tax on the seed, but the harvest, we're going to get our money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you take out, and I'm just going to use a really easy number. Let's say that you decide to take out $100,000 from your qualified retirement account. You're going to get a 1099 tax form that says this is how much money you pulled out and this is how much you're going to have to pay in taxes. That's what happens, right? However, I'm going to give you a little illustration. Let's say that your loan balance in your reverse mortgage, once you started it, has slowly grown every single year because, again, you don't have to make a payment on a reverse, right? Those payments are optional. But over the years, let's say that that loan balance has increased by $100,000 of mortgage interest. All right. If you were to make a one-time payment on your reverse mortgage for $100,000, so again, you took money from your qualified retirement account and you make a payment on your reverse. Again, these three things that are beautiful just happened. Loan balance decreases by 100,000 because you just made a payment. Your line of credit within the reverse mortgage just increased by 100,000. And you just paid a whole boatload of interest. When you pay interest on a mortgage balance, you're going to get a 1098 tax form that says how much money you paid in interest. You then get to take that to your CPA and they can have a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, that's nice. So we'll be able to like pay down and then reduce balance. And while doing that, we have the tax benefit of doing so as well. It's so I know we were excited about this conversation. And so I don't even remember if we discussed like, hey, here's the definition of a reverse mortgage. So let's just say that Renata, so I bought a house from Renata cash, right? So I have no loan on the property, right? And I'm now 62 and it's like a single family home. Is that the only home that I could use for a reverse mortgage? Break that down for the audience and so that they could understand when would it be possible for them, what type of property, and you already explained to them that a home that's free and clear from mortgage is a great starting point. So just break that down for them so they have a better understanding of that.
Yeah, great. So plain and simply, a reverse mortgage is a mortgage with one very big difference. Your obligation to make a principal and interest payment is completely optional. Now you still have to pay property taxes, homeowners insurance, maintain the property and keep it as a primary residence. But you do not have to make a payment on any of the money drawn from your reverse mortgage for the rest of your life. Now that is awesome. Now you have to be at least 62 years old to get a reverse mortgage in place. Now, if you're married and in pretty much every state except for Texas, if you're married and you're 62 and your spouse is under 62, you can still do a reverse mortgage and everything is still fine. If you're in Texas, both of you have to be 62 in order to do a reverse. All
There's
right.
always one exceptional state,
You
right?
always want to say, yeah, Texas is special. Absolutely. So That's the kind of the qualification as far as the age of the client. Now, when you look at the house has to be anything that we would deem as FHA approved. So that's single family homes, townhomes, condos that carry FHA approval. Renata and I could help you, find out if your condo is FHA approved or not. You can even have a duplex, a triplex, or a fourplex. As long as you're living in one of the units, you can do a reverse mortgage on that property. Now, it
And
does
just as
need
a
to
side
be,
note,
go ahead.
on the FHA condos, we have an amazing condo department. If the condo is not FHA approved, they are phenomenal about getting condos approved as well. So if we have a client that is looking to purchase a condo and they are not approved, they are really great about getting the spot approval for a particular unit or working on getting the association approved as well. So if we run into those.
Yeah, great point. Great point. And we do a lot of condos. Um, so the house itself needs to be a primary residence of the borrower. All right. So if they want to do this on a second home or an investment property, this particular program is not going to fit, for that particular box. The house itself can be valued from the low end, 100, 150, 200,000. There's still some properties out there in the United States that still fit within that, all the way up into your multi-million dollar properties. So there's a great strategy to be put in play for any of those. But those are going to be the basics. Again, the borrower's responsibilities are simple. Continue to pay your property taxes, your homeowner's insurance, maintain the property, keep it as your primary residence. And you get to retain title to this house. One of the biggest misconceptions about a reverse mortgage is that somehow the bank owns your house and you're handing over title or the keys, and that's not the case. All right, you retain title to the home. You can sell the property at any point. You can pay off the loan at any point or pay it down. And really, and it's probably a good time, Michelle, to talk about what happens at the end because that's
I
one of the
think you were
things that,
reading my mind because I
yeah,
was
yeah, it's like,
about to
okay.
ask you, there's such a big myth around, hey, after the parents pass or the homeowners pass, it's as if the family members don't have access to the home anymore. And so I was just gonna say, talk more about that so that people get to understand that the property isn't gone and somebody else owns the property, and then your children or whomever you plan to leave the home to no longer will benefit or get access to that home. So go ahead and
Yeah.
speak to that. Yes.
Yeah, perfect. So my dad has a reverse mortgage. I will do a reverse mortgage the moment I hit 62. But let me give you my dad's example because it's a really good one to just show how this all works. When my dad and my stepmom pass, we as the heirs of the estate, as far as the kids, have a decision to make. Do we want to keep this house or do we want to sell it? Now, in our scenario, we're a blended family. I think there are like 8 kids between both sides. There's no possible way that we're going to figure out how to keep this house, right? We're going to have to sell it. There's just
Yes.
no way to split this home 8 ways. So we're
Go
going to
get the
list the
shingles
pro
upstairs.
right. We're going to list the property for sale. Okay. We're going to pay off the loan balance and then the remaining equity, which there's projected to be a lot, is going to be divvied up between the kids. And that's how it's going to go. Now, if we wanted to keep this house, okay, and it's a great house. My dad used it to purchase his property, which is, by the way, the third client we'll get into. So we used a reverse to purchase it. Um, if we want to keep this house because it's got a pool, it's really nice, and we all figure it out, all we have to do is refinance or pay off this loan balance, and we can retain the property. It's really easy. The timing on this is super simple too. 30 days to let the loan servicer know what our initial intent is. And then we have 6 months plus two 3-month extensions to execute that plan. The great thing about this, Michelle, is we don't have to start making payments as the kids on this loan once my dad and my stepmom pass. That's huge. My mom passed away way too young. She was only 55. I was the oldest of 5 kids and the only one that had the financial capacity to stroke her mortgage payment on her farm in Kansas. And I could only do it for 1 month. So we ended up having to fire sale this home in the middle of winter, which is not the best time to sell a house in Kansas, and just to get out from underneath it so it didn't go to foreclosure. Now, had my mom been old enough to have a reverse, we would have been able to, mourn her. We wouldn't have had to worry about making a payment. We could have listed the property at a better time during the spring. It just would have been all around a better situation for us.
That's exciting. And so you said something that prompted another question for me is
Yeah.
that you said after your dad and stepmom passed away, the kids didn't have to make any payment. Is there a time frame between the debt and selling the house that the family would be required to make payments, or no payment is required at that point until you finally sell the house? And I'm thinking there has to be some time frame because the bank hasn't been getting paid all this time, and so to know that you've now passed away and we're still not getting any money. So what is the time frame look that takes place between debt and sale of property before you have to pay back something?
Right. Or refinance of the property. It's 1 year.
One
Yeah.
year,
You
okay.
have, yeah, 6 months right off the get-go, but you can ask for two 3-month extensions, which would take it to a full year. And I've seen some of these, Michelle, that even go longer than that. That, the kids are still there. Sometimes you've got a child that just won't leave. They don't want to sell the property. They're just kind of being there. So there is some allowances for that. But if you want FHA's answer, it's 6 months plus two 3-month extensions is the time frame.
That's
And no payments need to be made during that period of time.
nice, nice, nice. So I guess also one thing that you need to mention, you mentioned while we were talking last week, and I'll allow you to show some from a scenario or two whenever you feel ready. But one thing that you mentioned last week that intrigued me was the fact that number one, the reverse mortgage helps some people answer the question, do I have enough? And it becomes that strategy that could answer that question and show them that you may have more than you think you have and you don't need more. So that is one thing. And then the next thing that you talked about was just the fact that in down times, in down markets, right, people have the ability to say, okay, I'm going to pause on taking from my portfolio. We do know if they have RMD, they're going to be required to take their RMD, whether the market is down or not, but they could use other strategies to offset those taxes called charitable distribution. We'll get into that on another time. That we're talking about reverse mortgage today. So with that being said, then my question is, talk to me about down markets and the plan and how that's helpful to some people where they now have the option to say, okay, the markets are down. I'm not going to pull from my portfolio so much so that it could continue, give me some more longevity on it, and I'll just take from the reverse mortgage.
Yeah, yeah. And so, Michelle, I guess at being a great financial planner, if I'm your client and I come to you and I say, Michelle, I really need to take out $60,000 this year, and that given year, the market is down by 15%. What are you advising me to do?
Well, if we don't have a reverse mortgage and you have a portfolio and the markets are down and that's all you have and you need the funds, we always say that we are going to look at the best way to get those funds to you, right? And so we're going to get the funds to you because you still have to live in your economy. We can't let the world's
Right?
economy stop you from living. We plan for all of this and we factor all of that in place. And so without a reverse mortgage, we'd be taking from the portfolio, right? So that's what we
Yeah.
do.
Well, and as a great financial planner, you're looking at sequence of returns risk, right? So if I'm saying, Michelle, I want to see what my portfolio is projected to do.
Wait, I'm going to stop you right there. So
Go
you're
ahead.
spreading big words around for the audience. Just break it down to layman's term for them. So because
I
they might
love
be
it.
like, sequence of return, ChatGPT, tell me what that is.
Yeah, I love it. So basically what that means is that if I've got a sum of money that is invested, and I want to look at that money and say, how long is this money going to last me? If I start because we either put money into our retirement account or we start to take money out, right? And when we start to take money out of our retirement, I want to look and look into my crystal ball into the future. And I want to look out there and say, how long is this money going to last me? And the great thing, Michelle, about your software is I can say, Michelle, if I've got $500,000 in my retirement account and I need to be comfortable, I need $4,000 or $5,000 a month when I retire. How long is that going to last me? And you're going to probably put that into your software and say, okay, Matt, the market does not go in a linear line as far as rate of return. Like every single year, you're getting the same rate of return, right? It's the market is all over the place, right? The stock market's always going up and down. So you're going to put in a really safe average for me and say, okay, Matt, it goes up and down all the time, but if we look historically, maybe 4%, 6%, somewhere in there is what we could kind of bank on. And so if I know that, then this is how much money you can draw out, and this is how long it can last you. Okay, now I did this exercise, Michelle, with my financial planner. And I gave her a number. I said, I want $10,000 a month when I retire in today's dollars. I said, how long will my nest egg last me? And she did out the calculation. She said, Matt, it's going to last you until you're 83. By 83, your money's gone. Now, there might be, some little fluctuations in the market that, might change that. But if we're going really conservative, you've used all of your money by 83. Well, I looked at her, I said, but what if I live longer than 83? She said, you can't take as much money or you're going to be, out of your portfolio. You got to take a lower amount. You can't take 10 grand per month, or you're just going to have to find another source of money. And I said, guess what? I have one. And I plopped down my line of credit in my reverse mortgage on where it's supposed to be. And I said, I now want you to run the same scenario, but I want you to put into your calculation by the time I am 74, I'm able to take out $6,000 a month from what we would call a buffer asset. A buffer asset is another group of money that you have that's off to the side that you can draw on if and when you need it. And I said, I want you to put that in and look at your software because at that point, I don't need 10 grand a month anymore. I only need four. And she put it into her software and said, Matt, you're never going to run out of money. In fact, your total nest egg is going to build through time and it's going to grow. And so, depending on where we draw our money from, we have different buckets. The great thing about a reverse mortgage is that it opens up the home equity bucket so that you can use that in a coordinated strategy. So that's one way, is you kind of wait and then you pull it. The other way is if there's a bad market, and let's say my normal draws are, I don't know, $60,000 a year. That's what I need. Well, if the market is really bad, maybe I just draw out what I absolutely have to with my required monthly distributions, those
Right.
RMDs, right? We love
Right.
using our acronyms in our business. But if I only draw what I have to, and then I draw from my buffer asset or my reverse mortgage line of credit instead, what I'm allowing my portfolio to do is to rebound, to go back up because it went down that year. I don't want to take money when it's down because then I'm further exasperating the draw from that retirement account. If I draw when it's going up, that's the best play,
Right.
right?
Right.
And that's building it. So for me, and this is backed by PhDs like Dr. Wade Pfau and Barry Sachs and others that have done the Monte Carlo simulations, another term. That's when they do all the different things that could possibly happen with your retirement account. And they
Right.
say, what does this look like? If you use a reverse mortgage, there is more sustainability and more safety in that retirement account. And that's from their data.
That's good. this is great conversation. I know we are excited about it. I don't know if the general audience is excited about it, but this is what we're here talking about it, so they could get excited about just another way to look at what they have as an asset that could be a current illiquid asset, making it liquid and making it work for them. And so they have the opportunity to know that, okay, while I may not have saved enough for retirement, or I could have saved enough, but life happens. And so where my assets are is not really where I would like it to be. And so I have options, right? And so, it's great to give people options, right? Renata, talk to me from the standpoint of what your experience has been like with reverse mortgage, and what are the things that you are hearing about it, the differences that you've seen from the beginning of your career to now, and what are your strategies in using this tool?
I think for me, a lot of the misnomers that people have that we kind of went over, of course, the bank owning the property, the differences between what the reverse mortgages of the past were. So the line of credit, the reverse mortgages of what they're started at now are a lot lower than what they used to be. So in other words, now, you can live to be 150 and still draw the line of credit. That just wasn't what it was back in the day. And so because of the government oversight with the FHA insured reverse mortgages, they're just so much better set now. When I do have clients that I've sent over to Matt, I've had various people. So some of those situations have been, somebody that has owned their home free and clear. They've come to me, for instance, because they needed to do simple things, meaning, upgrades around their house. They needed to put a new roof on, they needed new windows. And originally they were referred over to me just to do either a cash out refinance or a line of credit. For them, for that particular client, they were on Social Security income. That was their only source of income. And the income was not sufficient to make that monthly payment. That was the perfect candidate for the reverse mortgage. And I was able to send him over to Matt. And, he was used to making his taxes and his insurance payment already. And he was emphatic about not including that in his mortgage payment. He wanted to continue making those himself every year. And I said, perfect, you can continue to do that. Another client that I had, they were relocating. The husband was retiring, wife was already retired. They were both, I want to say late 70s, early 80s, but retiring from Nevada, relocating to Virginia. I'm sorry, North Carolina. But they were planning to use the proceeds of the sale of their current home and putting everything down on their new home. They did not have any other assets, no retirement accounts, nothing. They both had a very small Social Security, and the husband was going to have a very small pension. Again, the houses that they were looking at in the price range in which they could afford was not going to be very much. So originally they were looking at trying to do a cash offer and using all of their proceeds. And for me, I try and look, I've been a budget and financial analyst. I've worn a few different hats in the financial sector. That's scary to me. I don't ever want somebody to use every single bit of their assets. So we brought in, their son lived in Virginia Beach, kind of had a conversation with everybody involved because we wanted to make sure, that was their only heir, that, he was included in these conversations as well. Matt had a conversation with all of them. It was a much better pathway forward for them to be able to do a reverse purchase on their new home, still put some of that money down from their sale, but they were still able to hold on to, I want to say close to 90, 100,000, somewhere in there, versus putting $250,000 down. And all of a sudden now they actually have assets, which, they had nothing before. I think they had, less than $10,000 in the bank, which they were going to use to put down also. That scared me, like I said. God forbid they blew a tire on the way to the closing. They weren't going to have the assets to buy a new tire. So again, those are just some examples that I've had. I could give you some others, but that kind of covers both the purchase and somebody owning their home free and clear. And I think Matt, I know we kind of touched base, Michelle and Matt, over, what happens when someone passes away. Um, I kind of, Matt, if you want to touch base on, in a down market, what happens? I know that's one of the questions that I get a lot of times of, well, what happens, if my house is underwater?
Yeah.
So, if you want to kind of go over that, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, that's a great point, Renata. So in a reverse mortgage, obviously you've got a home that we're expecting to appreciate. But we all know that the market does some crazy things sometimes. You go back to 2008 and all of a sudden our values just absolutely plummeted. And so, let's look at this. If the loan balance happened to be here and here's your value, you're underwater at this point. Now, if you're in the home and you have a reverse mortgage, it's just another day in the life of your reverse mortgage. You still don't have to make a payment. You can still stay there for the rest of your life, no worries. But when you pass away, the heirs of your estate have the same two choices. Do they want to keep this house or not? If they don't want it, because again, what is owed is greater than the value, they can wash their hands of it and say, hey, bank, here you go. Here's the keys. We're walking away. And they do not have to bring in a single penny. This is a non-recourse loan insured by FHA. All right. It's wonderful. There's also a way for them to keep the house. All right. So an appraisal would be done, and they could, in essence, keep the property at 95% of the current appraised value. In other words, they get a discount in a down market based upon the true valuation then. The difference between what they're getting the property for and what is owed is taken care of with the mortgage insurance. So now they could hold this property indefinitely or wait for the market to turn and then sell it. So either way, the heirs are protected. They don't have to bring in any money. It's the house that takes care of the debt. But the more likely scenarios, there is equity remaining in it at the end. And I want to hit on Renata if I can. You hit using this to purchase a house. The very first reverse mortgage I ever did was for my dad. My dad was living in a home. I thought that fit his needs. He was super happy, but he came to me one day and said, Matt, I want to sell. I said, all right, Dad, what do you want to buy? He says, well, this is my dream house. It has a pool, has all these things. Well, his dream house happened to be $320,000 more than the house that he was in. And so he was trying to figure out how to do it. And, I'll give you some numbers here. It was a $300,000 home that he would sell, but he wanted to buy a $620,000 home. Well, in order to do that, he'd either have to take out $320,000 from his retirement account, which he really didn't want to do. He could have done a loan for that additional 320, but he really didn't want to have a $2,000 a month payment for the rest of his life. And so the third option allowed for him to come in with a $380,000 down payment. So he still had to take 80 grand from his retirement account, but that 380,000 allowed him to buy a $620,000 home. And from that point moving forward, his principal and interest payments were optional. So it's almost like he paid for it cash. And he just said, Matt, this is the coolest thing ever. Why doesn't everyone do this? And that was the impetus for me to start, really researching and diving into reverse. And of course, now it's a passion of mine. It's what I do every day. But we have to really rethink. A lot of, people listening to this podcast or watching it are going to say, you know what? If I have a $500,000 house and I want to, right size into a $500,000 home that's just different, and maybe it doesn't have stairs and all of that, I'm going to take all this money and plop it right in. No different than Renata's client that we were working with. You can do that, but is it the most efficient way to do it?
Yeah.
If you use a reverse, you're going to be able to maybe bring in 300,000
Mhm.
of the five. So that's your down payment. The reverse mortgage loan brings in the rest. You were able to save $200,000 that's now liquid to you in your retirement.
Have you seen people use reverse mortgage to kind of make their home more suitable for stay, aging in place and outlive their, just finish living their lives there? Have you seen people use it for that purpose?
Absolutely. So, I mean, think about it. I mean, if you have a paid off house, or even if you've got a very small mortgage and you're making a payment, you have a lot of equity there. And so a reverse mortgage will allow for you to take that money out and you can use it to do renovations. You can use it to make your home, more ADA compliant. My dad, when he built his house, had that in mind. He wanted to make sure it was all 100% ready, that if he ever needed to wheel around in a wheelchair, it was ready for it. Not to say he's there right now, but it's ready. So if you're in a home that you love and there's some things to it that you just want to fix up, again, the great thing about a reverse mortgage line of credit is you can access that money. It's yours. You're just now opening up the faucet and allowing you to draw it, and your payments back on it are optional. You can make them if you choose, but you don't have to. If you
That's
do a
great. You
traditional,
mentioned the age. The starting
Mhm.
age is 62, right? Is there an age where if a client comes to you and said, I want to do a reverse mortgage, you're going to be like, no, kind of too late for you?
Haha. I've worked with centenarians before. So there, no, and the reverse mortgage can go until you're 150 years old. We don't have anyone that has made it that long. I think we'll all celebrate that time frame, but no, there's no I'm too old for this. We work with a lot of clients that are in their 80s and 90s, and they access this program. A lot of them at that stage, they're accessing it because it's all they have left.
Right.
If you're asking me where is the most efficient place in my life to do a reverse mortgage, when is that date? Well, it's when I'm 62. Why? Because I have a line of credit that is going to build and grow. In fact, I'm going to share my screen if that's okay,
Go ahead.
and I'm going to show you what this looks like for my own plan here.
I'm going to chime in while you pull that up, Matt, and just preface it with not only the earlier the better, but so many of, I think, our country don't have retirement savings right now to begin with. And so if you do have somebody at 62 that maybe has a mortgage on their home and that is eligible for the reverse, and like you mentioned before, let's say their mortgage is currently $2,000 a month, they go into a reverse mortgage and they're able to then start, we don't tell them what they do with that savings now, that $2,000 a month savings, but maybe they take that and they actually start utilizing that for retirement, or some of it, because, you know, we hear that all the time, where people aren't set up properly for retirement. Um, and then, of course, the earlier they get that line and it continues to build, the better off they're going to be in those later years. So I'll let you kind of go over your sheet here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is, we look at the need that's out there, and it's great. I mean, there are not enough people that have long-term care insurance to take care of, if they're going to need to be in an assisted living, or something like that later on down the road. This becomes a wonderful safety and security blanket just in case. So what I want to show you here is, this is where I project the value of my home personally to be, when I am 62. I've got about a decade to go, but this is kind of where I'm anticipating that value to be at that point. If I did a reverse mortgage, or when I do a reverse mortgage at that point, I'm going to have a line of credit that's going to start out about $350,000 strong. Now, I mentioned before, the line of credit has a growth rate. So you can see that this green number here, it continues to build and grow and become stronger and stronger through time. At age 74, that line of credit is now $837,000 strong, which, by the way, The line of credit is growing independent on what the value of the home does. The value of the home could go up or down. It does not matter. This line of credit is there and growing for you. If I never touch it, it never becomes a part of the loan. And again, it just continues to build. I don't know of an 80-year-old out there in my scenario that wouldn't like to have access to another $1.3 million of liquidity at age 80. It's just a wonderful thing to have. So this becomes again a just a wonderful safety and security blanket, because if my wife or I have to go to assisted living, I can draw on this account to help pay for that. I mean, that's one way to use a reverse mortgage. There's many ways to do it. But the loan balance here is going to start out around 34 grand. Those are the closing costs. Now, reverse mortgages do tend to start a little higher as far as how much it costs to get them going. However, what you get back is huge. And I can make optional payments on this if I want to. But just to kind of throw out an example, let's say I made it to age 90, okay? Now let's say I never drew any of the money out of my line of credit. I've got $2.6 million sitting in there. But if I never touched it and I passed away at that point, again, the heirs of my estate would have a decision to make. Do they want to keep this house or not? If they want to keep it, they'd have to refinance that $261,000 loan balance and they can retain the property. If they don't want the house, and my kids won't, they're going to sell it. They list it for the 3.6 million, pay off the loan balance, and all of the remaining money is theirs. Right? So I mentioned how that line of credit conversion would pay me a good chunk of money, $6,000 a month. Well, there it is. Okay, so at age 74, I can start to take out, if I choose to, at that point in my life, an additional $5,937 a month for the rest of my life. That is awesome. That's an additional amount of money that can come in to really help with, my retirement goals.
It is, and for the people who couldn't see the screen, he mentioned that they were the value of the home was growing independent to the line of credit, and so as he got older, what you saw was that the value of the home increased, and so did the line of credit increase. And people are going to be like, yeah, but also the loan also increased, but not as significantly as the home value and the line of credit did. And so let's say the home value was 3.6 and the line of credit was 2.7. I'm rounding up numbers here, guys. The loan was somewhere around 300,000. So if you sell that house and have to pay out 300,000, the beneficiaries have at least 2.7 of assets there that they can do whatever they want to do with it, right? And if they want to keep that house even longer, to go with the market so they get more for it, they do have that opportunity as well. So just to kind of preference what was on the screen for those of you who couldn't see just what the numbers and the charts look like. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's a great program. And again, just keeping it back to simple. I like to use the word KISS. Let's leave this with a KISS. Keep it stupid simple. A reverse mortgage allows for you to be able to now utilize a position of equity in your home and be a little bit more strategic and efficient on how you're using your funds.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's investing and creating a line of credit, if it's no longer needing to make a housing payment and making that optional so you can put that payment elsewhere, or using a reverse to buy a different house. All of these are different ways that you can use this program.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So, if you guys know anyone who they have a large value home, right? And they need to answer the question, do I have enough? Or are there other strategies that I could use to ensure that I'm not having sleepless nights about do I have enough and what can I do to change that, As you can see here at Joss Brown, we do have a team that we work with where we have expertise in some area and we don't in some, and so that's why we brought out the experts today to talk more about reverse mortgage. And so we had a great conversation, Renata and Matt, on reverse mortgage and showing us just a way that we could use an illiquid asset, making it liquid, and use it through down markets, or when we need big withdrawals from our retirement accounts in retirement, and just the planning that we can do behind that to make it more beneficial for clients. And so we have that process here that we could help answer those questions. Do I have enough? I have such a big illiquid asset. How can I make it liquid? And how can I make sure that I am living out my retirement years without have to worry about am I going to run out of money? So thank you guys for this great enrichment conversation. And I'll let you guys wrap up by saying whatever you want to share with the audience. And you guys are part of such a great company called Movement Mortgage. And if there's anything you guys want to share about that, I'll leave that to you guys.
Yeah, I'll start, Renata. Movement's a great company. We do a lot of great charitable work, and I'll leave Renata to kind of talk a little bit about that. I think what I would tell anyone that's considering a reverse mortgage, this is a pathway, and that's all it really is. This is a pathway for you to consider. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having a paid off house or making a mortgage payment. But if you are doing either one of those or that's your scenario, looking at a pathway that includes a reverse mortgage is a lot of fun. Whether you decide to do it or not, it's completely up to you. But we really enjoy helping people to access, enjoyability in a better retirement. That's really what this is. And we love uh, serving and valuing people. That's our company mantra. And any opportunities we have to do that, we hop at that and jump at that opportunity. So I appreciate your time today, Renata. You can tell everyone about how amazing Movement is and how amazing you are.
Well, I appreciate it, Matt. Yeah, so, Movement again is a fantastic company. We are what's called an impact lender, which just means that we give a huge portion of our company's proceeds, our profits back to the local communities. So around 45 to 50% of the company's proceeds or profits go back to local communities. So, for instance, we have Movement schools are in several cities. I think there's 7 of them now throughout the U.S. And it is growing. The most recent one was opened up in Atlanta, Georgia, last year in 2025. And we are very big on doing mission trips and things of that nature all throughout other countries, and just really serving our local communities and giving back. And like Matt said, I mean, doing a reverse mortgage, I think for me, it is dear to my heart just because, when I'm talking to, some of our seniors and things of that nature, you can tell when people are stressed out. I think when you can give somebody that financial freedom and another pathway to relieve them of that stress, it's huge. It really is. I'm very big. I treat everybody like it's like their family. That's just the mindset that I like to give people. And it has served me well over the years of doing this. And so I think when I can give somebody that referral over to Matt and his team for a reverse, knowing that they're in great, capable hands, and knowing that they're going to find some stress relief there, that they're going to be able to do exactly what they want to do and have that flexibility of making a payment or not, and being able to utilize the funds that they have in a better way, is fantastic. And, really just taking out the misnomers of this product is just huge. So we thank you guys for listening in. And if anybody ever has any questions, please reach out to either of us.
Thank you guys so much for joining me today on the topic of why advisors are taking a second look at reverse mortgage. This was an enrichment conversation. And thank you guys so much. I appreciate your time, your expertise, and visit us again and listen to more of the Josh Brown podcast. We have interesting topics on our website. And so, yeah, we welcome any topics out there that someone may want us to talk about. But again, this was the conversation about reverse mortgage and just a different look at what it looks like probably a decade later and the options that are available to everyone. Thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Joss Brown Podcast. If you'd like to see more episodes, visit our website at jossbrown.com.